Alright, so Shadowkeep has been out for about 2 weeks now. I wanted to put together a list of the best exotic weapons in the game that are available to free-to-play players. If you're unfamiliar with exotics, they're the strongest weapons in Destiny. They have a gold background in the item card, and they always have a unique perk that doesn't appear on any other item in the game. They also come with a catch, and the catch is that you can't equip more than one piece of exotic equipment at once. So you'll only be able to equip one exotic weapon and one exotic armor piece at the same time. Today, we're going to be looking at my list of the top 10 free-to-play exotic weapons. All of these weapons are obtainable even if you've never spent a cent on Destiny. The list is in a rough order of importance, but it's not too strict. If your favorite exotic is low on the list, don't get too mad because you're probably right that it should be higher. Point is, everything on this list is really good, so you should just try and get all of them. Starting off at number 10 is the WORLDLINE 0. This is an exotic sword that you can get by collecting all 45 latent memories on Mars. Its exotic perk is called Tesseract. After you activate the perk by sprinting for a few seconds, you can use your heavy strike to unleash a teleport blink attack. Some people may be surprised to see this on the list since it's not really a big boss damage or meta exotic. The main reason I included it is because it's one of the best mobility items in the game. You can use the blink attack to launch yourself across the map incredibly fast. Warlocks can actually do this with just a normal glide, but Hunters and Titans can also get on the action by using specific supers. In general, it's just a really strong mobility tool that's useful to have in your back pocket, especially for doing things like jumping puzzles. At number 9 is the ARBALEST. This was released in Year 2 as an event item, which means it should now be in the global drop pool for free-to-play players. Its exotic perk is Compounding Force, which causes its shots to do massive damage to elemental shields. It also comes with the trait perk Disruption Break, which makes enemies more vulnerable to kinetic damage for a short time after breaking their shield. Normally this perk only appears on energy weapons, but since this is a kinetic weapon, that means it's actually buffing its own damage. This gun is an absolute beast at shredding through shielded enemies. It breaks shields left and right, and then even further buffs its damage when it hits the target. If you're ever doing a high-level PvE activity with lots of shielded enemies like Nightfall, don't sleep on this weapon. It's usually even better than energy weapons at deleting shields. At number 8 is Whisper of the Worm. In addition to being possibly the most gorgeous looking gun in the game, Whisper is also a very powerful boss damage weapon. It's a sniper that takes heavy ammo, and its exotic perk, White Nail, grants higher base precision damage and refills the magazine if you hit 3 crits in a row. It also comes with the trait perk Mulligan, which has a chance to refund missed bullets. Auto-reloading your magazine may not seem like a super flashy perk at first, but things get really interesting when you unlock the Catalyst, which gives you the perk Whispered Breathing. This perk grants a hefty damage buff if you scope in for a few seconds without firing, and lasts until you unscope the gun. Because the gun reloads itself automatically every 3 shots, this means that you can fire off your entire reserve of heavy ammo without ever unscoping to reload, getting the Whispered Breathing damage buff on every shot. To obtain this weapon, you have to do the secret mission The Whisper, which spawns during the Taken Blight public event on IO. You might want to look up a guide for how to start the mission, but I highly recommend not using a guide for the actual mission itself, at least for your first run. The Whisper area is one of the most beautiful locations in Destiny, and it's incredibly fun trying to go through it blind and figure out everything for yourself. I would recommend trying to get this gun even just for the experience of the mission itself. At number 7 is Bad JUJU. This exotic pulse rifle can be obtained by completing the Other Side mission in Callus's Tribute Hall. It comes with the exotic perk String of Curses, which is basically 5 different perks rolled into one. Kills will fully reload your magazine, and grant you the String of Curses buff, which stacks 5 times. Each stack of the buff increases your damage, and will also grant you additional super energy, which scales with your buff stacks. Finally, the weapon can be fired full auto, and also has hipfire grip. As you can tell from the exotic perk, this gun kinda just does everything. As long as you're killing things, you'll have infinite ammo. Your String of Curses buff will stack up your damage, and it will also help you increase your super gain so you can spam your super as well. The full auto and hipfire grip are just cherries on top to make the weapon a bit easier to spam as you're shredding through enemies. I don't really feel like I have to sell you on this weapon. The perks kind of just speak for themselves. Moving on, at number 6 we have the RISKRUNNER SMG. This is an exotic energy SMG that deals arc damage. Its first perk, Arc Conductor, grants you damage resistance to arc damage after taking arc damage. Kills while this perk is active will extend its duration. The second perk, Superconductor, activates while Arc Conductor is active, and gives your shots a chance to chain lightning and return ammo. This exotic is basically the ultimate arc weapon. If you're in any activity where you will be taking arc damage, you can pull this weapon out for near permanent damage reduction, chaining lightning and infinite ammo. It's especially good in any situation where arc burn is active, as it not only takes advantage of the increased arc damage from the burn, but it also negates the increased arc damage enemies can throw at you because of its damage resistance. It's also a monster in PvP, as you can pretty much invalidate any arc weapons and even arc supers to some degree. Although it's dependent on arc damage, you actually don't have to rely on enemies dealing arc damage to take advantage of the perk. Any self-inflicted arc damage, so damage you take from an arc grenade, will proc the perk as well. Basically, anytime there's going to be arc damage in play, use RISKRUNNER. Halfway through the list, at number 5, is the Tractor Cannon. This is an exotic heavy ammo shotgun. Its main exotic perk, Repulsor Force, emits a powerful impulse that pushes enemies away, suppresses their abilities, and makes them more vulnerable to all incoming damage. Its second perk, the Scientific Method, grants increased speed and handling after dealing damage. This gun is extremely useful in PvE. The main reason to use it is the debuff it applies to enemies, which increases all damage they take by 30%. Being able to push enemies away from you is also helpful in activities with heavy mechanics like raids. In PvP, this weapon is also very strong, more so for its ability to suppress opponents. Suppression prevents players from using any abilities, including their jump, and even forces you out of super, making it a very potent super shutdown tool. Whether you're doing PvP or PvE, this is definitely a weapon you need to have in your arsenal. At number 4 is the HUCKLEBERRY. This is a kinetic SMG with the exotic perk, Ride the Bull. This perk increases fire rate and recoil while you're holding down the trigger. Kills with the weapon will partially refill the magazine, and will fully refill it if you have the catalyst. The gun also comes with Rampage, which is a stacking damage buff on kill. It's important to note that this is the pre-nerf version of Rampage, so it's actually around twice as strong as the Rampage you see on normal legendary weapons. This gun functions a lot like Bad Juju, minus the super gain on kills. Instead, it gains increased fire rate, which stacks along with the Rampage damage buff for an extremely powerful ad shredding machine. Although you're sacrificing the increased super gain that Bad Juju offers, the sheer clearing power that this weapon more than makes up for it. Don't be fooled by its unassuming perks. This gun is an absolute monster. At number 3, we have the WARDCLIFF COIL. This is a rocket launcher that fires a volley of micro rockets thanks to its first exotic perk, Mad Scientist. Its second perk, Mechanized Autoloader, automatically reloads the weapon whenever you walk over a heavy ammo brick. Much like the HUCKLEBERRY, this weapon looks simple on paper, but is an absolute beast when put to use. The volley of rockets deals insane burst damage, but can also be used for quick wave clear because of the spread of the rockets. In PvP, it's a very powerful super shutdown tool and can be fired in 2 different directions because the volley comes out over a period of about a second. If you get the catalyst for it, the rockets also get crazy aggressive tracking. I'm talking like 90-degree turn through a doorway level of tracking. At the end of the day, it's not a very fancy weapon, but it is very, very effective. The number 2 spot is taken by the Fighting Lion. This is a primary ammo grenade launcher. You can delay the detonation on the grenades by holding down and releasing the trigger, which allows you to bounce the grenades off walls and around corners. Thin the Herd causes the gun to reload itself whenever you kill a grenade-damaged enemy, and always drops primary ammo on kills alongside whatever other ammo might drop. Again, don't be fooled by this weapon's relatively simple description. Although it takes primary ammo, it's still a grenade launcher, meaning it hits really hard. You can clear groups of enemies with just a single grenade and burst down elites and majors pretty quickly. It's also very useful for taking down enemies that use shields, like Cabal or Taken Phalanxes, because you can bounce the grenade behind the shield. And because it uses primary ammo, you can spam it as much as you like without worrying about running out. In PvP, it's incredibly useful as both a primary and a cleanup tool. Because it uses primary ammo, you can pair it with special weapons for what's effectively a double special loadout. My favorite combo is running a sniper rifle with it. Anytime I hit a body shot with my snipe, enemies usually get to cover, which means I can hit them around or behind the cover for free with the Fighting Lion. It's also a really useful weapon to have for getting grenade launcher kills for going for pinnacle weapons like Mountaintop or Wendigo. Finally, at number 1, we have the Outbreak Perfected. This is an exotic pulse rifle that you can obtain from the secret 0 Hour mission, much like Whisper. The first exotic perk is the Corruption Spreads, which creates Siva nanite swarms on rapid hits and precision kills with the weapon. The second perk, Parasitism, makes the gun do more damage to enemies based on the number of SIVA nanites attached to them. This gun is really good. The SIVA nanites are basically little tracking flies that will seek out and attach to enemies. The nanites will actually deal damage when they attach, which makes the gun very good at ad clear, as the nanite swarms will often do a lot of the work of killing trash for you. Against stronger targets, the nanites will attach and increase your damage, making the weapon deal way more damage than most primaries could ever dream of doing. Now, while the gun is amazing on its own, it gets to a whole new level when you run a full fire team of players with this equipped. If you're all shooting at the same target, each player will be creating nanites, and each outbreak will get more damage based on the total number of nanites, not just the ones that you personally created. This means that with a full team running Outbreak, you can use it as a boss damage weapon, even against raid bosses. It's not going to one-phase any bosses, but it's generally a very reliable two-phase weapon if everyone is running it. This is really useful for activities where you're under light, because the damage buff helps a lot with making up for your lower stats. And because you're using your primary for boss damage, that means that you have your special and heavy weapon free for taking out adds or majors. In my opinion, this is a weapon that absolutely every player should have in their inventory. And that wraps up our list. For all the guns that don't have a specific method to obtain them here, you can either get them as world drops or pull them from Xur's Fated Engram. I hope this was able to help you figure out which weapons you might want to chase. I plan to do videos on free-to-play exotic armor too, so if you're interested, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss those videos. Let me know what your favorite exotic so far has been down in the comments. Once again, my name is Oxy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.